Hi, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, and today we're going to make this really cute Christmas ornament. Believe it or not, this is really just paper and scoring. I am going to use one die cut from So Many Snowflakes to do this added little gold snowflake here on the handle of this, but very easy to make. Takes some patience, but looks more difficult than it is. So let's get into it. The neat thing about this, the bottom is glued, but the top, I'm going to show you as we put this together, you can either glue it or you can leave it unglued so that this could easily be opened if you put some candies or some lightweight. You could put gifts in here as long as it wasn't anything too heavy, maybe kids' socks or hair bows, or I don't know if a gift card would fit in there, something light, nothing heavy. Or you could just make a bunch of these and put on your Christmas tree. This would be a great craft for a group of kids to do, older kids because of all the scoring, but definitely a fun little project. A good way to use up some of your Christmas scrap DSP. So let's get right into it. I'm starting with real red cardstock, and this piece is 10.5 by 6.25. And I'm going to bring in my trimmer. We're going to do a few of the score marks with the trimmer. The rest we are going to be doing by hand. So let's go ahead and start with the ones that we can go ahead and score. On the long side, we want to score at 1.25. Make sure you move your cutting blade out of the way. So we're going to go at 1.25, 2.5, 3.75, and 5. And we're going to go 6.25, 7.5, eight and 3/4, and 10. Okay, and then on the short side, we want to go at 1.25, 2.5, 3.75, and I will put these main score marks in the description below. And then the last one is at 5. The last one we're going to do with the trimmer. We have more scoring to do, but we'll be doing it by hand. Okay, so let me move that out of the way. You're also going to need a bunch of 1x1, 1-inch square designer series paper, just different patterns, whatever you like. Use up some of your Christmas ones. So I just have several here. I can cut more as I go if there's something that I want that I don't have. Then I have the base cardstock, which I use the real red. The squares on it that we're going to be putting the paper on are 1.25 by 1.25. So I have an extra 1.25 by 1.25 that I'm going to be using as a template to do some hole punching. And I'll show you how we're going to do that, but you'll just need an extra square of that. So let's go back to our piece that we scored. So on one side, we have this 1/2 inch scoring, and we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut the top and the bottom little notch. So just cut on those score lines. At the top and the bottom, you just want to cut these little pieces out. I always have trouble making sure I don't have a glare so I can cut on the score line. So trying to make sure I don't have it where you can't see it in the camera, but where I can see the score lines. Okay, so that gets those out of the way. Now's when we're going to need to do some scoring. So we're going to need, I have a mat that I can score on here. And we're also going to need a ruler. We're going to be marking some score lines that we're going to need. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to kind of fold these a little on these score lines just to help me see them. It'll just make it a little bit easier to do this next part. When you're doing it yourself, you may not need to do that depending on your lighting or whatever. You may be able to see it all really easily. So I'm just doing this for the purposes of filming the video, so I can see the score marks to know where I'm going to be going from. Okay. Okay, so I've got those already, just so that I can see where we're going. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we need to cut out some squares at the top and the bottom. We're going to leave the first one, and we're going to cut the second one from the end. Those are my sticky scissors. I don't want to use those. So you're just going to cut the square out. And this is where I got the extra one to use as my template. And so you're going to cut every other one out. And it might help to fold that one down to be able to cut across. Sometimes that helps just to be able to get the cut. So you're going to keep doing this all the way across, cutting every other one. These are going to be the pieces that we're going to put together to make the top and the bottom. So directly down from that, you're going to want to do the same thing, cutting away the ones just the same way. So I've got all these little squares ready to go. Okay. So on this first square, these are 1.25 by 1.25 inches. So halfway is 5/8. So at the top of so you have the line where you cut some squares out, and then you have the next full line. So on the first square of that full line, you want to mark that first square at 5/8 at the top of the square. You just want to mark it at 5/8. So 4/8 is half. So then you want to do the next. If it's marked in 16ths, you'll do the 2 lines past half. Okay, and then you're going to skip one, and then you're going to mark the next one at 5/8. And I'm just using a pencil. I can go back and erase these later if I need to. And then you want to keep skipping every other one and marking 5/8 at the top. Okay, then just flip it around, and you're going to do the same thing. On the ones underneath where there is where we cut out the squares, you're going to do the same thing. Okay, so for these at the top, we are going to be taking our ruler, and you want to put it on your half mark to the fold, the score mark that you already have. So we're gonna be scoring a triangle. Now this, to me, would be way too hard to try to put on the trimmer and do, so I did mine by hand. So then I'm just going to go like this, and I go down, go over it a couple times because I need that to be good and scored. And then I'm going to come from the other side of that middle mark down to that score line. Just lining that up. Just like that. And we're going to do that to each of these where we made the 5/8 mark. So you're just putting the top of the ruler on the 5/8 mark, the bottom part down to you're just doing catty corner down to that fold. And just running it across a couple times. And then we're going to do the same thing to this other one. Okay. And then we're just going to keep going all the way across. Now, for these down here, you can do it one of two ways. You can either leave it turned the way it is and just go from the bottom up, or you can flip it and do it the same way we just did the other ones. I'm just going to go from the bottom up since I've already got this in here. And it's just the same thing. We're just going from that mid mark to the corner where the folds meet, where the scoring meets. Just like that. And we're going to do it on each one of them, opposite the ones that we already did. Now, the squares that do not have the triangle folds are the ones that we're going to end up putting the designer series paper on. So that will be that. And then if you can see how some of these are folded like that, that is what's going to be our, where we just did that scoring. So we're going to fold these. And this is where the little bit of patience comes in that I mentioned, because we're going to have to get all these folds somewhat ready so that when we start to put this together, that the basic folds are there. All right, starting to take shape. Okay, so let's add some DSP. So I'm going to bring in my liquid glue. And you can lay these out. You can be really particular with them, how you want to do them. Whatever, you know, some people are probably more design oriented than others. So you can just kind of lay this out how you want them. So I'm just going to bring in my liquid glue and I'm just going to start gluing these down. So I'm just putting some glue on the back. And I'm going to speed this up during this gluing because basically you're just going to do the same thing over and over, and you're just going to put the squares where you want them, do your design how you want them, and you're just going to glue all these pieces on. So I'm going to speed this up through this part so that you don't have to watch me do all that, and then I will come back and show you how to finish it up. Okay, so I've got these all glued on, and I put one on the bottom, and you'll see why you only need one on the bottom. You don't even have to put that on there if you don't want to, if you want to leave it the plain red, but you'll see why in just a moment. So now on this one where we have the 1/2 inch, I'm going to get some tear and tape. And I'm just going to put the tear and tape along that strip. I'm just going to rub that down. And I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool to get the backing off. And what I do is I just fold a piece of it over and then fold this over on top of it so that I can line them up, because you want these to be straight. So I'm going to crease this fold to make sure. And I just want to line these right up at the edge. Hopefully I'm keeping my head out of the camera. So just line those up and press those down. So that's got the basis for your ornament put together. So now we can work on the bottom. We know this is the bottom because that's the one where we put the DSP on the flap, and we want to do that flap last. So we're going to do the two that are opposite. We don't want to do the one opposite it. The other two are the first ones we're going to work on. So this is where it takes a lot of patience, because you're going to push these in. It's one of those projects. This part of it is one of those projects where you never have enough hands, right? So we're going to be gluing these together trying to get my, you want to press your triangles in so that those creases, it'll go right on those score lines. So I'm trying to really make sure I get those ready so that when I just push them, they'll naturally go on those score lines. Just like that. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with these two. So I'm just going to put some liquid glue on one of them. Be a little bit ornery. Okay, so I have the liquid glue on there. So I'm going to push, I want the opposite side. And I want to bring those together so that they're lined up. And I'm just going to pinch those together with my fingers for a moment. Doesn't take a long time to dry. And I know this one has to go next because it does not have the paper on it. So I'm going to get these folded. So again, just putting some liquid glue on there. Not sure why my liquid glue is having a problem. If I was not doing a video, and there it goes. If I was not doing a video, I wouldn't be having any problem. Okay. So I'm going to, again, push this up so I can get it lined up evenly. And I'm just going to put my fingers on the inside and pinch it together and just hold it there for a moment. Let the glue set a little bit. And I'm just pressing my fingers in the inside to give it a little bit of pressure. And it just takes a few moments. And then the one with the DSP is the one that's left. And we're just going to be, it's the same process. We're just going to be folding that in and gluing that down. And sometimes if you can, I don't know if you can see, it's acting funny. It's because this fold here needs popped out at the top of the square. So sometimes if you're having difficulty, check that because there may be a square that's not. Okay, so I'm going to put some more liquid glue on here. And this is going to have our bottom sealed. And again, I want to get that as lined up as possible. And I'm just going to hold that for a few minutes. Okay, now if you want to, this next part is where we're going to be working on the top. So if you're going to put something in it, now's when you'll want to be thinking about doing that. I don't have anything in mind, but I can still open it. If you don't want to be able to open it, you're just going to use it as a paper ornament, you can do the same thing we just did and glue it. But I'm going to be, I didn't want to glue it. So here's what we're going to do for this. I'm going to lay this down with those tabs out. And so I'm going to use this as a template. And I'm going to mark again at 5/8. So I'm just going to do a 5/8 mark. At the top. And a 5/8 mark at the bottom. And then I'm going to do it on each side. So I'm basically doing that on, I'm marking all sides, all 4 sides at 5/8. Now there's plenty of other ways you can do this, whatever works for you. I just found that this worked really well for me. Okay, now I'm going to just draw a straight line between the marks that I just made. I'm looking for the center point of this square, or close. It doesn't have to be perfect. okay? And then I'm using my smallest hole punch, and this might be a 16th, it may be, yeah, I think that's probably what it is. And I'm just going to hole punch right in the center of those marks, or as close as you can get. It's kind of hard to tell, for me anyway, where I'm hole punching. So I want to get it as close to the middle as I can. That's pretty good. So then, on each of these flaps, I'm just going to hold this template. I'm going to try to make sure I'm in the camera. I'm just holding the template over the flap. And then I'm just going to mark in that hole. Doesn't matter because we're going to cut it out. And if you had a little bit of the pencil showing, you could always erase it. So I'm just putting this on each one and marking the center. This was an easy way I found to mark where I want to do the hole punching. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my hole punch, and I'm going to punch those spots that I marked. Again, or as close as I can get to them. And that's going to give us a hole in the middle of each of our squares that we're going to need. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to need some ribbon. And I'm using this glittered organdy ribbon. You can use whatever kind you want. Let me show a few others that would look really nice. I have this sheer ribbon, this real red sheer ribbon that would be pretty. I just thought that was going to be a little too much red. I have a black organdy that would be real pretty. Depending on what color squares you use, that would be real pretty. Gold would be real pretty. So there's a lot of options for that. Okay, so I'm just going to cut off. You can see this one's pretty long. It depends on how long you want your hanger to be. So I'm just going to cut that off. And I probably have about, I don't know, it's more than 12 inches, probably about 14 inches. But again, the length really doesn't matter. It depends on how much you want to be able to hang with on your tree. Okay, and so I'm just putting the two ends together, and I'm just going to tie a knot in the bottom. Okay, now this is going to go on the inside, and we're going to pull the ribbon through the holes. Now this is where you would want to, if you're going to put something inside, you would want to do that. Now let me show you what I did for this part, because I have acrylic nails and they can be difficult trying to poke this through. You could put it through and maybe take your pick tool and kind of try to poke it through. That'd be one way to do it. What I did is I just took a paper clip and I bent it up so that I have a loop in it. And I put my ribbon in the loop. And I kind of use this as my needle. So I put my ribbon down inside the box and I just pulled the paper clip through the hole. And that allowed me to be able to get my ribbon pulled through. And then so I want to go to the one opposite of that. And I want to do the same thing. I want to pull my ribbon through. And then that's going to pull these two together. And so we're just going to be doing the same thing with all four. So next I'm going to go to this one. And this was the easiest way for me to get my ribbon added. If you don't have nails that get in the way, you might can just put it through with your fingers. But because of my nails, I struggled until I used the paper clip. So, and I'm just pulling this ribbon until I get my parts of the box lined up. And then I'm going to go through the last one. Now remember, if you wanted to put something inside, now would be the time to do that. And then you would be closing it up. So there we have our box made. And then I can just pull the paper clip off. And I said we were done with the liquid glue, but there's only one more thing I want to do. I cut 2 of these snowflakes out of this gold shimmer paper. And I'm just going to dot some liquid glue on the back. Of one of the snowflakes. And then I just laid the ribbon down across it wherever I wanted it to be. And then I just lined the other snowflake. I've got my fingers in the glue and it won't come off. So then I just lined the other snowflake up on top of it. And I'm just pressing that down, making sure they're lined up. So there you have both of them. You have the one that I made previously. You can see I used different paper, and the one we made today. And again, if you don't want to be able to open it, you could have glued these down as you were putting your ribbon on, just like we did the bottom. You could have put a piece of designer series paper on the top. You could definitely do that. I wanted to have the option to put candies in these, and I could still, well, not with the snowflakes on there, but definitely a neat little project. If you're a teacher and you want something fun to do for your students, this might be an option to put little treats in and then give each one to take home and hang up. Just a lot of options you could do with this. I hope you've enjoyed this different type of project. Usually I feature stamping and die cutting, and this is a more of a paper folding technique. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you still take some time before Christmas to do some crafting and some fun things. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, so if you'd like to order any products, you can do that at my website, karensmith.stampinup.net. And I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time I upload a video. Check out my Facebook group and my Facebook page, Karen's Cards and More. And I will craft with you again soon.